right, joining us now, Washington correspondent for Spectrum News and New York One, Kevin Frey, who was at that Trump rally last night. Kevin, good morning to you. Thank you so much for being with us. Take us inside the garden for what seems like it was quite a spectacle and a pretty dark, stark portrait from Trump and his allies about the choice in this election.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty raucous affair, and this was, of course, for Trump, kind of, a homecoming. This is, you're playing Madison Square Garden. This is kind of the peak for him in terms of what his existence is as a New Yorker, in some sense. And so this fed into that vibrant kind of moment for him. Now, in terms of the commentary inside, look, they're already sparking all this backlash as you were just walking through, particularly when it comes to things like what he said about Puerto Rico. Now, in terms of why he was there, it seems part of the thought process is, yes, this is big for him as a New Yorker. Yes, it allows him to play into his ego. But it also, of course, is surrounded by all these competitive congressional districts that are so key. And so I was talking to Congresswoman Elise Stefanik as she was going in yesterday, and the thought is this can ramp up support amongst the MAGA base in some of these competitive congressional districts. But one has to imagine some of what was said yesterday in the garden, particularly when it comes to his comments about Puerto Rico, not his particularly, but the comedian earlier on, could only serve to rev up the anti-Trump base. And you already saw some of the one of the lawmakers in one of those competitive districts, Anthony D'Esposito, trying to kind of separate himself from that comment about the island of garbage.
Yeah, I was going to say, for Elise Stefanik to be right about that, you would have thought we would have seen some of these Republicans who represent swing districts in and around the Hudson Valley, that they might actually show up if they thought it was going to be so helpful. But were they there? Did I just miss them?
Well, I saw at least one go in, Congressman Mike Lawler. He declined to do an interview with me when he was walking in. He was in kind of the same flow of traffic as Stefanik and Malliotakis. And I believe Anthony D'Esposito was there based on some of what I saw on Twitter, but I didn't see him personally. But we didn't see them on the stage. No,
right.
They did get
That's what I mean. Yeah.
when there was the event at Long Island. But they were not center stage here, kind of trying to rev up their own standing, if you will, at least in the national spotlight.
I mean, I think they're caught. That's why some of these districts are so hard for them. Let's talk about the Puerto Rican comment for a second, because I mean, look, if you're lucky enough to know people from Puerto Rico, they're extraordinarily proud of where they come from, of their heritage, and they're American citizens and they vote. The ones who live here on the mainland, obviously the rules for Puerto Rico itself are a little bit different, but there's about 500,000 people of Puerto Rican heritage who live in Pennsylvania, which is a critical swing state, and it's very rare that you see the Trump campaign acknowledge or say, "Oh, we shouldn't have said that." Normally they'll approach it differently. How much of a potential problem is this for them?
Well, I mean, let's just look at the pure math. I mean, you have 500,000 voters in a state where, it could come down to just the margins. So that's a difficulty that they have to deal with. Look, I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which has a very large Puerto Rican population. And it's one of those districts that the Biden campaign and now the Harris campaign has invested pretty heavily in, trying to do door knocking, trying to do outreach. This is a county that typically goes red, but has a very blue, very multi-ethnic downtown center city. And so if you're hemorrhaging support there through comments like this, through a culture that is very proud of their culture, that often has the Puerto Rican flag displayed on their cars, on their homes, that's going to become a difficulty for them. And it kind of played out in this extraordinary way. This comment was made at the same time that Kamala Harris was actively courting them, for example, in the Philadelphia area, and sending out this message essentially is, look, he did not call with you and help you during Hurricane Maria, and this only goes to underscore that. At the same time, we saw Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who has her own Puerto Rican background, was on this Twitch feed with Tim Walz, and they were talking about this comment as well, playing it live for their audience, with AOC essentially encouraging Puerto Ricans in states across the country to send this to their relatives and say, they're talking about you.
Yeah. All right. Kevin Frey for us this morning. Kevin, thanks very much for being with us. I appreciate it.